Today, I will show you how I turned a pile of journals into a stack of journals for my show. Kindex is the perfect time and money-saving solution for turning handwritten journals into shareable projects for families to love and enjoy. Plus, for the frugal and time-challenged members of this audience, I'll explain why this is currently the easiest and most economical solution for publishing family journals to share and preserve your family history. Now, before we continue, I do want to let you know that Kindex did not sponsor this content. And when I went to do this project and I was playing around with all these different tools, they didn't know I was doing it. So this is my unbiased opinion. And if I become a Kindex cheerleader, it's not because they're paying me to tell you this. The first step in order to get your journals transcribed quickly and efficiently is to scan your documents. Now, just about any scanner on the market these days will work. In the past 15 years since I talked about digitizing your genealogy, just about every scanner I've come across works. There are some minimums. You want a minimum of 200 DPI when you're working with text documents, but the standard is 300 DPI, and with storage being so cheap these days, why not? Now, if you don't have a scanner or your scanner is slow, I want you to go see if a family search center in your area has the cool scanners that I use. They are fast, they are modern, they do an incredible job. There is a little bit of a learning curve in knowing what buttons to put to scan the whole image if you have something large. But let me tell you what happened with the scanner in my location. I scanned 1,500 pages in about 5 hours. The only thing slowing me down is letters. When you put letters on the scanner, you got to turn it on, put it off, put it on, and you have to unfold it. And that can take a long time. But the journals, I whip through those incredibly quickly because they're already bound. A single journal took about 10 minutes. I'm not kidding. Journals are incredibly fast. Folded letters, like I mentioned, take longer. Now, there are several options for outputting your images, the scans. JPEGs as individual pages work well, or you can have a single combined PDF. Now, after doing my project, I talked to the people at Kindex, and they actually recommend, for now, it's going to change soon, but I don't know when soon is, and I need to get this video out. JPEGs work really well because you can manipulate them in the Kindex platform. But if it's a single combined PDF, it gets a little bit more difficult. But tools are coming soon. I just can't wait for them. They're really amazing. Now, the next thing that Kindex told me after I did this project to help you have more efficiency and success with your project is there is a file that I will link in the description box, and it tells you how to name your files so that Kindex is laser focused in what it's trying to transcribe. Now, in this case, I was working with journals, and so you need to put JRNL dash to the beginning of your journal file names. There is a video where Kimball from Kindex tells you how to do that pretty rapidly. So I won't cover that in this video. I'll be sure to link it in the description box as well. Why do you want to put a code like journal or the abbreviations they have for letters, cards, and so forth? It's because it tells Kindex what type of document it's looking at. Now, I didn't do that, and I had a lot of success. But the best practice to get the most bang for your buck is to add those little clarifications or qualifiers to the beginning of the file. The next thing you want to do with your scanned images to ensure that you have the best success with Kindex is to rotate your pages so the text reads horizontally. Now, I did actually update few documents that has the arrangement odd. And Kindex can actually read vertical text, but the horizontal orientation is faster and you have more cleaner, accurate results. However, if you have pages where you start writing up the side, go ahead and scan them as is. Kindex will take care of it. I was incredibly impressed with what it was able to do. So you do want to have your text read this way. Sometimes Kindex will have a problem. They're working on it, but they will have a problem with the single pages versus the 2 pages. And this little cutoff right here, you do want to check your images to make sure the full image was scanned. I didn't check before I uploaded. I just said, oh, I did it so great. Here we go. And it did a pretty good job of transcribing the record, but the high visible light was enough to assist in sleep, but allowed travelers. So it did a pretty good job, but the more it's cut off, the harder it's going to be in reading your transcription. So you want to make sure the orientation is right. You want to make sure that you haven't cut anything off. And then for now, it is often best not have a double page scan. If you have questions about that, let me know. When Kindex does offer the 2-page scans, I'll probably make a little short announcement and I'll link it in this video. So be sure to just always check the description box. Let me talk about some tools I use to prepare files. Your operating system might also have a photo editor that can edit images, but it will not edit PDF files. So depending on what you save your scans as will depend on what tool you use. If you do have PDF files or JPEGs, you can also use another tool called PD Fill. It is functional, but it is not visual. So some things it can do, but it takes twice as long to do it. But you get what you paid for, and PD Fill is free. My favorite go-to tool is Photoshop Elements. It is where I make slideshows, scrapbook pages, edit and approve images, but I can also rotate and prepare my files for transcription at Kindex or other locations. And finally, if you want the best visual experience for working with PDF files, not necessarily JPEGs, is Adobe Acrobat. It does come with a fee. There is a free trial out there, but you can rotate, rearrange, crop your images, and really get that PDF file ready to rock. So once your files are named correctly, single-paged, horizontal text orientation, upload is incredibly straightforward. So after you've uploaded, then you can select the ones that aren't auto-indexed. You can tell it's auto-indexed already by that little green icon. There are some thinking ones, so I don't have to do those. Now, the red icon is when I uploaded them, I wanted these to be private. I don't want them to be public. And so that's what the little red icon is. But you click the ones you want to auto-index, pretty straightforward, hit auto-index, and then it tells you about how many pages and the cost. Now, the cost is 25 cents per page. They also say you want to do at least 20 pages because it's a $5 minimum in order. You can't just do 25 cents at a time. So $5 minimum, which would be 20 pages. And you just follow the instructions. It's pretty straightforward. It's incredibly easy. And you know what the best thing is? You don't have to do any writing prompts. There are no page limits, and you don't have to babysit the transcriptions. You don't have to cuddle and nudge and do all of these things with the language models. Load it up, let it fly. It is amazing. So then once you have a page transcribed, then you can follow the instructions that I had in a previous Kindex video where I told you how amazing this tool was. And you can go ahead and do any corrections. You can take out any crossouts to say, hey, yeah, I don't really need that. I really want to focus it, and click save when you're done. After you have your text ready for printing, you need to move it out of Kindex and move it into a program. Copy your transcription and then put it into Google Docs or whatever program you want to write your stories in. Now, I chose to move it into Google Docs because Kindex doesn't have a book publishing service yet. And so I tried to use Microsoft Office, but the free version couldn't handle what I wanted, and I didn't want to pay for a subscription. LibreOffice kept crashing too much. It used to be my go-to, and now I'm like, no, thank you. Google Docs worked reliably well for a simple project. I'm not indexing it. I'm not doing anything overly complicated, so it fit my needs just fine. But you need to choose your book size first and download the Lulu template. You see this .gox on lulu.com. I'll put a link to the template tool that they have. There are certain sizes for books, and they will give you a template that you can download and upload into your file folder. And notice it's a .gox rather than the Google file. And I have this lulu.com down here. I have this lulu.com 6x9 template. And then I click File, Make a Copy, and then I put the content from the different journals I made. But one of the things you want to do is in Kindex, they preserve the line breaks. But when you read your journals, you really want to read the journal as paragraphs, right? Without the line breaks from where you were restricted by the book size that you had. And so one of the things you can do is you can highlight your text and use Google Gemini to refine and then say remove line break. And then Gemini will clean things up. And that helped me very, very quickly. Now, as it pertains to formatting your journal, some of the things you might want to decide is, are you going to have month headers? I have January 1999, and then I have the entry date. You can decide if you want to bold the dates or not. That's something to consider when you're writing. Maybe you want to add some brackets to add some explanations. And maybe you also want to italicize it, say, hey, this wasn't really part of the original text. But you also want to figure out, what do you want to do with your page numbers? There's lots of different options. You can do it on the center, left. Also consider whether you're going to have front material like a title page and so forth. I decided, because it was my journal and it was pretty obvious, Devin's journal 1993 to 1994. The front material was just a sample of my writing, and then I just went straight into the journal. You can decide if you want to do something different. I would just recommend keep it simple. This is not a family history. It's just a more easier to read version of your thoughts or your ancestors' thoughts. Initially, my idea was to have all of my journals be produced year by year. One thing I discovered that was a problem in Google, you may have run into this yourself. If not, let me give you a little heads up. Google has this habit of eating words. So what do I mean by that? Well, depending on how much content you put into a file, they have a character limit. And when you hit that limit, Google doesn't tell you it's full. It just deletes things without your knowledge so you can add the new stuff in. And it gets really frustrating. You think, wait, I already did this. What's going on? There is a file size limit. I'm going to put a link to the Google search that I did to tell you what it is, because it's probably going to change when you watch this video. Most journals haven't hit the limit, but I have this massive project I'm doing for Andy where I'm combining letters, journals, reports, this, that, or the other for 2 years of handwriting and letter exchanges, and that's hitting the limit and the words are disappearing. So if you start seeing things disappear, check the character limit in your book, and that might be the problem. So then the next thing you need to do is export to a PDF file. Google Docs makes it easy. All you have to do is download a PDF document. It doesn't get any more straightforward than that. You will then go over to lulu.com, create a project, and then go through the different prompts that are on the screen. Select a book. I did a print book. I want to print my book. I don't want to publish it for everybody else. I want to print it, give it a title, the language, category. I just did family and relationships. I didn't really know what else to put. When you have print your book, it keeps it private unless you make it public. And then you go to design your book. This is where you can upload your PDF file, and then it will go through the different specifications. Let me show you a project that I did finish so you can see the specifications that I chose. Now, I can't change it because I've already published it. So if I want to change it, I have to upload a new version. So here I did a print book. After I uploaded the PDF, it gave me several warnings. I go through and decide whether I care or not. I will tell you some of the image resolutions I didn't really care about. But here's where we go. We have the book size and book count. I selected the 6x9 tray just because for me, it was about the same size as a journal anyway. So I just kept with that. Standard color because I was including pictures. If you aren't doing pictures, then go with the standard black and white. I did the uncoated pages, paperback perfect bound. I went for a glossy cover, and then we went with the book design. I created my covers in Canva. I just created an image of a 6x9 and then put it together, and then I was able to upload it. And once you put all of that information in, Lulu.com gives you a preview. Let's zoom out a little bit so you can see it. And you can go page by page. Notice there are margins. If you get too close to the edges, the words can get cut off. And I decided this was just enough. I was okay with a little bleed over into the book. You can see I have some different handwritten notes. I talked about the smiles, a little just smile graphic that I included. Here was a program from something I went to. And really, you can include just about anything you want in your journal. I would highly recommend, if you do have the opportunity to transcribe your ancestors' journals, include some scenery pictures and some pictures of the house, the people, just so it makes it a little more interesting to read for your family members. Some final tips. If your journal is under 50 pages, let me recommend that you combine multiple journals. In this case, this was the years 1993, 1994. That was one journal from 93 to 94. I didn't write a lot. But here I combined the years 2005 to 2008, which is essentially multiple little ones in one bigger one. The reason why I make that suggestion is because on the spine, it's really hard to read their journal title, but when the spine's just a little bit bigger, it's easier to read. And when you put it on the shelf, you can go, oh, I know what that journal is. So that's why I make that suggestion. You'd have to run the numbers. It might be more economical to print one book than multiple books. Again, my tip, insert a sample of the handwritten pages. You could print the entire handwritten journal and the transcription side by side, but it's a journal. It would get kind of old after a while. And depending on the shape and sizes of your journals, you probably don't want to include the entire thing. Have a PDF file that other people can access, tell people where it is. Insert photos to complement the text. Add explanations like I showed you. If you have any questions or other tips that you would recommend, be sure to leave those in the comments below. But remember, I had that big stack of journals, and now I have a small stack of readable journals. And the journals are easier to read, easier to share, and easier to preserve. With downsizing in our near future, this is something we need to do. Remember, everybody doesn't want all of your things, but they do want all of your thoughts in an easy to share format. Plus, the best thing about preserving your journals is that if the worst should happen, you have a digital backup and you can reprint it again. So thanks for those sticking around to the end. I'm now going to talk to you about the economics of using this method and compare AI tools. I am frugal to a fault. In fact, there's many times I will go and I will need something and I will research it and only to call up Andy and say, can we get this? I need it. Here's my reasoning. Here's how I've waited and all that other thing. I try to save money by manually transcribing the stack of journals that you saw. While I was manually transcribing a 2-page handwritten letter, it took me about 30 minutes. Andy looked at me and said, "Babe, how long did that take?" When I told him, he said, "So you need to process 40 pages per hour for 35 hours with a 90% accuracy rate to save money? That's 35 hours you could be making videos for your YouTube channels. Spend the money." That was the moment I stopped fighting trying to be frugal. Now, there are several ways that you can transcribe your handwritten documents. And remember, transcribing will often involve digitizing your journals. We're not going to cover that on this channel, but you can manually transcribe your journal. And Andy debunked this as a money-saving option because many people don't have the time to transcribe handwritten text. And if the handwriting is chicken scratch, then those journals are going to take forever to process. Another option for transcribing is voice to text transcription. I've heard some AI enthusiasts or some genealogy technology enthusiasts say, well, you could just read a journal aloud. Now, can you read 40 pages an hour? Do you want to read aloud for 40 pages an hour? No, that's not going to work out too well. Now, there are a number of AI tools that are free that you can give a try to. So this is a snipping tool where I just screen grabbed a journal page that I had scanned, and you just can click this little button and you can quickly grab the text. But notice it didn't get it. It missed the line here. It missed some lines here. But if I copy the text and I paste it into Notepad, so this is what I got from the snipping tool. That's not any English that I understand. So what if I tried Google Translate? So I did the auto detect of the image and it detected English. I had it transcribe it to English. I'm going to copy the text, put it in a Notepad. With 2 checked bags and 2 backpacks, we headed to the Bush airport at 4 p.m. Andy read on his phone, and I read as his phone, and I read a romance novel. All right, so not too bad. It definitely sounds like English, much more than the other. But it said read on his phone, and I read a romance novel. So you notice that it's not perfect. I have to go and I have to correct things. The harder the handwriting, the more confused the Google Translate to get, but it's not really designed for that. So let's try one more solution. ChatGPT, you can use many different language models. I wrote a prompt to the best of my ability. Please transcribe this handwritten text, make it a word-for-word transcription. If you can't read something, don't guess, simply denote that something is illegible or you're taking a guess at the word. And it gives me, we checked 2 bags and 2 backpacks. We headed to the Bush airport at 4 a.m. Andy read on his phone and I read a romance novel. I had really sailed through security, so it's much better. I do like that, but I think I see something that doesn't quite really align. I got to find the image. Okay, well, it's back up here. I've nearly sailed through security as I had TSA pre-dash check, and here it said pre-check with a check mark status. So it is inventing some things. It did show that I did cross some things out. It wasn't too bad, but one of the things that I want to do beyond this was I'm using ChatGPT, the paid version. One of the things I wanted to be able to do is I want to save money. And I also want to save time. Here are some of the limiting factors. No one can process hundreds of pages per hour. None of the tools could. You have to do things one at a time, or you hit the various data limit. The next problem is prompting. Trying to get an AI language model to transcribe exactly without modifying the text was difficult and it was time consuming. And sure, someone has some templates for a prompt that you can use. You still have to check the output to ensure the accuracy is really, really good. And I did notice that there is lower accuracy with handwriting. Now, by contrast, Kindex is an incredible tool. It has multiple AI models that process the text such that its accuracy rate is extremely high in my experience. It will drop in accuracy in more challenging handwriting, but it is incredibly accurate, even with some of the most difficult handwriting that it has had to process for my journals, or even for some of Andy's grandmother's letters. But at some point, I have to say, cheaper isn't always economical. So if you have any questions about Kindex, Lulu, formatting the books, whatever, drop them in the comments below. So now the next question is, when am I going to start my grandmother-in-law's really difficult handwriting project? My mother-in-law, she digitized everything. She started transcribing it a couple years ago, and the project got stalled. But, if somebody will give me some brownie points from finishing her project, I just might be convinced to do it. See you guys next time.